In MotoGP, opinion is as powerful as speed. Every rider has data, statistics, victories. But not everyone earns the trust and respect of the paddock's sharpest minds. And when one of those minds, British journalist and former racer Mat Oxley, speaks, the world listens. Oxley is not known for flattery or diplomacy. He speaks with the candor of a man who has seen the sport from the saddle and the press box alike. And when he recently revealed his ranking of riders, it sent shockwaves through the MotoGP community. What caught the world's attention wasn't only who he praised, but who he didn't. Francesco Bagnaia, Ducati's golden boy, the double world champion, found himself unexpectedly snubbed in Oxley's latest analysis. Instead, Oxley singled out 3 riders he believes are performing better than Alex Márquez, and in doing so, opened a conversation that quickly ignited across every fan forum, media outlet, and MotoGP cafe on the planet. For years, MotoGP has been defined by rivalries built not only on the track, but in perception. Riders fight for victories, but also for reputation, and reputation is fragile. Bagnaia, often celebrated as the face of Ducati's modern dynasty, suddenly found his dominance questioned not by an opponent's overtake, but by a journalist's pen. To understand why Oxley's opinion mattered so much, you have to understand who he is. Mat Oxley isn't just another pundit chasing clicks. He's a man who's been there, who's leaned into corners at impossible angles, who's felt the heat of an engine and the fear of a crash. When he talks about feel, grip, and courage, he speaks from experience. And that's why his words hit with such weight. So, what exactly did he say? And more importantly, why? The controversy began after the Malaysian Grand Prix, when Oxley analyzed the state of MotoGP's grid in one of his post-race columns. He noted how Alex Márquez, once considered a secondary figure in his brother's shadow, had risen through consistency and self-belief. Oxley praised Alex's progress, describing him as a rider, coming into his own identity. But when asked who he believed were performing on a higher level this season, Oxley didn't hesitate. He named Marc Márquez, Jorge Martin, and Pedro Acosta 3 names, none of them Francesco Bagnaia. That omission lit a fuse. Fans demanded explanations, critics accused Oxley of bias, and the MotoGP media circus went into overdrive. Because to leave Bagnaia off a list of top riders isn't just a statement, it's a challenge to the reigning order. For Oxley, though, this wasn't about disrespect. It was about perspective. He argued that Bagnaia's raw pace had dipped since the GP25 project began, that his synergy with Ducati's evolving machine had faltered, and that the psychological pressure of being the factory face was beginning to show. Bagnaia, he said, is still elite, but not the sharpest weapon in MotoGP's armory right now. It was brutal honesty, the kind that cuts deeper than any crash. But what made his list even more fascinating was the trio he placed above Alex Márquez. And by extension, ahead of Bagnaia's current form. Each of them represents a different kind of brilliance, experience, aggression, and evolution. Marc Márquez, the elder brother, is obvious. Even battered by injuries, Marc's name remains synonymous with innovation. Oxley called him the rider who can still redefine what a corner means. Watching him wrestle the Ducati GP25 this season, even after years of physical recovery, Oxley saw flashes of the genius that dominated an era. His racecraft, that uncanny ability to adapt mid-lap, mid-corner, is something no data can quantify. To Oxley, Marc's understanding of grip, geometry, and chaos keeps him perpetually one step ahead. Then came Jorge Martin, the satellite rider who became a factory nightmare. Martin's aggression, his cold precision under braking, his relentless pursuit of victory. Oxley described him as the predator Ducati created but can't fully control. He's fast, fearless, and occasionally fragile, but his raw speed is undeniable. While Bagnaia has mastered the long game, Martin thrives in the storm. Oxley's message was clear. Martin's potential ceiling, at this moment, is higher. And finally, Pedro Acosta, the wonder kid rewriting the laws of MotoGP's learning curve. Oxley, a historian of the sport, compared him to Casey Stoner. Not because of identical style, but because of that same wild, instinctive connection between man and machine. Acosta's rookie laps have already made veterans uncomfortable. His ability to read grip, shift his lines, and improvise under pressure feels years beyond his age. So when Mat Oxley named these three above Alex Márquez and indirectly ahead of Bagnaia, what he was really doing was highlighting evolution. MotoGP, he implied, is shifting. The new breed is rising, and even champions aren't immune to time's momentum. Bagnaia's fans were furious. How could anyone dismiss the man who carried Ducati to back-to-back world titles, who beat Martin and Enea Bastianini under immense pressure, who executed race strategies with surgical calm? To them, Oxley's snub felt personal, a betrayal of a rider who's done everything asked of him. But beneath the outrage lies a deeper truth about the sport itself. MotoGP isn't static. It rewards not just speed, but adaptation. And adaptation is exactly where Marc, Martin and Acosta shine. Oxley's view, whether right or wrong, reflected an uncomfortable reality. Bagnaia's riding style, built on control and calculated aggression, isn't always suited to the new age of MotoGP, an era defined by wild overtakes, late braking, and aerodynamic turbulence. The Ducati GP25, with its massive downforce and unpredictable front load, requires a balance between intellect and instinct. And while Bagnaia remains intelligent and methodical, he sometimes struggles when chaos erupts around him. Marc Márquez, however, lives in chaos. He thrives when the bike misbehaves, when the rear end dances, when traction disappears. It's in those moments that his genius awakens. Jorge Martin, too, is fearless in the storm, willing to risk it all for one more tenth. And Pedro Acosta, he's the future's echo, already learning how to make disorder his ally. That's what Oxley meant when he said they're ahead of the curve. They're not just fast, they're futuristic. Still, calling anyone better than Bagnaia comes with consequences. Social media erupted with debates dissecting every lap time, every qualifying session, every head-to-head. Analysts pointed out that Bagnaia's consistency still makes him the most complete rider on the grid, a craftsman who knows how to win championships, not just races. Others argued that Oxley's list was about form, not legacy. That right now, in the moment, these three riders show a spark that Bagnaia seems to be missing. Inside the Ducati garage, there was silence. Officially, no one responded to the article. But whispers spread that Bagnaia wasn't pleased. For a rider whose confidence depends on rhythm, outside noise can be poison. Yet those who know him best say criticism fuels him, that every doubt becomes motivation. And perhaps that's what Mat Oxley wanted. Not controversy, but accountability. Because in MotoGP, praise is temporary, but criticism sharpens the edge. As for Alex Márquez, the man at the heart of Oxley's comparison, the article ironically elevated his profile even more. Being measured against the sport's best is itself a compliment. Alex has fought his way out of the shadow that once defined him. He's not Marc's brother anymore. He's Alex Márquez, a two-time world champion in lower classes, and now a consistent threat in MotoGP's fiercest battles. Oxley's column, though aimed at ranking, became a mirror for Alex's progress. Behind all this drama lies something bigger, the evolution of MotoGP journalism itself. Reporters like Oxley aren't afraid to challenge narratives, and that friction keeps the sport alive. Fans argue, teams react, riders prove. The dialogue between media and racer has always driven MotoGP forward. Every controversial quote becomes a new storyline. Every headline, another turn on the track of perception. Oxley's snub also highlights how personal MotoGP fandom has become. It's tribal. Supporters of Bagnaia see him as the symbol of precision. The artist who paints victories with discipline. Followers of Marc see rebellion, a rider who refuses physics. Martin fans see fire. Acosta's believers see prophecy. And Oxley? He sees the whole picture. A sport in transition. Old guard versus new blood. Logic versus instinct. In the weeks that followed, the debate refused to fade. Even paddock insiders weighed in. Some former riders quietly admitted that Oxley had a point. That Bagnaia's 2025 season had shown cracks under pressure, especially in high-temperature races and late-race duels. Others insisted that numbers don't lie. And until someone dethrones him, Bagnaia remains the king. The beauty of MotoGP is that both can be true. A rider can be champion and still chased by faster shadows. At the next press conference, when journalists tried to bait Bagnaia into reacting, he smiled faintly and said, "Everyone can have an opinion. I have the track." It was pure class. A response that silenced the room but spoke volumes. He knows the best answer to doubt is the stopwatch. Meanwhile, Marc Márquez shrugged off the drama with that mischievous grin only he can pull off. Matt has seen many champions, he said. So if he thinks I'm one of the best, maybe he's right. Jorge Martin, always the provocateur, added, if people are talking, it means we're doing something good. And Acosta, he just laughed. Too young, too focused, too fearless to care about lists. That's the magic of this sport. Every rider handles pressure differently, and every quote fuels another battle. The next time they shared a grid, the tension was electric. Cameras zoomed in on the Ducati pit wall, where Bagnaia's eyes were locked forward, expression unreadable. Marc's visor dropped with purpose. Martin adjusted his gloves, restless. Acosta looked like a kid about to enjoy the ride of his life. When the lights went out, every opinion, every article, every debate dissolved into pure emotion. The track doesn't care about words. It only speaks lap times. And maybe that's where the truth of Oxley's analysis lies. Not in judgment, but in challenge. Because MotoGP is a story told through defiance. For every rider who's doubted, there's a lap waiting to erase the doubt. For every critic, there's a comeback. Francesco Bagnaia has heard it all before. He's been written off, doubted, dismissed. And each time he's answered not with interviews, but with victories. So while Mat Oxley's list may have shaken the fan base, it might also awaken the champion within him once again. As the season moves toward its climax, one thing is clear. MotoGP is richer for voices like Oxley's and riders like Bagnaia, Marquez, Martin, and Acosta. They form the perfect storm. Opinion, pride, and speed colliding in an endless pursuit of greatness. And that's why fans keep coming back. Not just for who wins, but for why. For the drama between words and throttle, between respect and rivalry. Mat Oxley's snub wasn't just a critique. It was a spark that reignited debate, that reminded everyone what makes MotoGP so alive. Because behind every lap, there's ego. Behind every headline, there's humanity. In a sport measured by milliseconds, it's the stories that last forever. And as the paddock settles into silence after another chaotic weekend, one truth echoes through garages, commentary boxes, and living rooms around the world. MotoGP isn't just about who's fastest. It's about who's evolving. And that's what keeps riders like Marc Márquez, Jorge Martin, Pedro Acosta, Alex Márquez, and yes, even Francesco Bagnaia, locked in a battle that's bigger than points or podiums. It's the race to stay ahead of the curve, not just in speed, but in spirit. Because in MotoGP, glory fades, headlines change, and machines evolve. But the hunger to prove, to silence doubt, to write your name a little higher than before, that never ends. And that's why Mat Oxley's words matter, because somewhere out there, one rider read them, clenched his jaw beneath the helmet, and whispered to himself, "I'll show them.